A Canadian journalist working for British news agency Reuters has resigned in protest of the outlet's complicity in the Gaza genocide. Her name is Valerie Zink and she posted a long letter of her resignation earlier today with a photo of a press card which she had cut into half in apparent disgust. Zink said that she had decided to resign from Reuters after 8 years, denouncing the news agency's coverage of Gaza as a betrayal of journalists, her words, and accusing it of justifying and enabling, again, her words, the killing of 245 media workers in the besieged territory. She wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "It has become impossible for me to maintain a relationship with Reuters given its role in enabling the systematic assassination of 245 journalists in Gaza." End quote. She added, and this bit is very important, "I have valued the work I did with Reuters over the past 8 years, but I can no longer wear this press pass without deep shame and grief." End quote. Previously, her work also appeared in the New York Times, which too has faced routine condemnation for its complicity in the ongoing Gaza genocide. Israel has slaughtered hundreds of journalists in Gaza. The number of journalists murdered by barbaric Israelis in Gaza is way more than the number of journalists killed in all previous conflicts in modern history. That's how evil the current Israeli regime has been. And these Israeli terrorists have carried on with their savagery with the help of the Western world by brutally slaughtering men, women, children and babies. That's the level of their impunity. This genocide has truly unmasked the ugly and evil faces of Western politicians. We now know that these politicians are nothing but morally corrupt and brutal savages who have no problem, absolutely no problem, in sponsoring the mass murder of innocent civilians in exchange of a few $1,000s or pounds or to satisfy their evil ideological urge. Israel has murdered a dozen odd journalists within a span of a week. Yesterday's massacre of journalists was live broadcast on TV channels around the world as Israeli terrorists dropped American bombs on Nasser Hospital. Yes, they dropped American bombs approved by Israeli stooges in the US Congress and Senate. I dare you to remain okay after watching that video. It's on our Telegram channel. Details are on the screen. Tell me how this is okay. If it's a war crime to bomb a hospital, how has Israel bombed every single hospital in Gaza over the period of 23 months without facing any consequences? Why has there not even been condemnation from the likes of Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, Frederick Merz, Mark Carney and other compromised Western politicians? This is how clown Trump reacted yesterday. Clearly, he can't be bothered, even if he is now effectively sponsoring the murder of journalists, doctors and children.
Reaction, sir. The Israelis bombed a hospital in Gaza that killed 20 people, including 5 journalists.
When did this happen?
This happened overnight, today.
I didn't know.
Any reaction to this?
Well, I'm not happy about it. I don't want to see it. At the same time, we have to end that whole nightmare. I'm the one that got the hostages out. I got them out. All of them. Steve Witkoff has been amazing. He's done a great job. But I'm the one that got them all out through my people and through me. And now we're left with probably a little bit less than 20 because I think 1 or 2 are gone. And I said a long time ago, I'm going to get them out. But when we get down to that final 10 or 20, these people aren't going to release them because they're dead after they release them. So it's a nasty situation. Very nasty, horrible thing.
Journalists in Gaza, to me, are the bravest in our fraternity. They have gone ahead to document the Israeli brutality and barbarism with the knowledge that they too would be murdered any time. Watch this broadcast by Press TV to truly understand their bravery.
I'm right now standing outside the main medical building within the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis City, the largest remaining medical facility in southern Gaza. And this hospital witnessed this morning one of the most horrific massacres by the Israeli occupation forces. This morning, the main building behind me within the 4th floor was hit by Israeli airstrikes. The first one took place around 10 a.m. by an Israeli suicidal drone that bombed a group of civilians, including journalists who were working there at that spot, given that it's the highest spot they can get to document the scenes they document every single day. And as soon as that group was hit by that drone, a group of civil defense members and some of the journalists arrived at the scenes in order to save those who were hit and extract those killed. But as soon as they arrived there, they were instantly bombed by a second strike by the Israeli drones, which brought the total number of people killed to at least 18 people, including 5 journalists and several defense members, and also some of the medical staff that worked within the hospital here.
It was a live-streamed execution of journalists, medical crews, and patients inside the hospital. I was giving my live update here after the first Israeli strike, when our colleagues passed by me and went upstairs with the civil defense teams. Moments later, another airstrike hit them the moment they arrived. To witness such a massacre with your own eyes, and to stream it live to the world, was beyond horrific. Humanity must act now to stop these atrocities.
If you look carefully at the building, you'll see the massive scale of devastation that was caused by these airstrikes that was actually documented live on cameras while the civil defense and the medics were trying to save those who were bombed before they were bombed themselves. But it's not just the 4th floor, the 3rd, the 2nd, different strikes were carried by the Israeli occupation before that hit this particular hospital that is now considered the main medical lifeline to provide urgent care for the people here who continue to suffer and be subjected to more massacres, to more attacks by the Israeli occupation forces that spares neither the witnesses nor the healers. Everyone is under the attacks by the Israeli occupation wherever they are. Ahmed al-Najjar, Press TV, Khan Yunis, Palestine.
And yet, they haven't found the support from the same organizations that they once worked for. Valerie Zink says that Anas al-Sharif had worked for Reuters and even won the Pulitzer for the agency. And yet, when he sought its help against a direct threat of assassination by an Israeli terrorist in uniform, the agency looked the other way. Worse, Reuters' headline on his assassination was a new low in journalism when it added Israeli justification right in the headline. Its headline, which has now been changed, had read, and I quote, "Israel kills Al Jazeera journalist it says was Hamas leader," end quote. Similar headlines were carried by the BBC and other Western media outlets. What did these headlines do to Israel's confidence? It slaughtered 6 more journalists by bombing a hospital only a few days later. And yet, when this BBC presenter Geeta Gurumurthy interviewed the official from Save the Children last week, watch how she kept pressing her for evidence to support the claims on starvation in Gaza. Clearly, according to her, there is no starvation. There is no famine, even after UN aid chief said last week.
Shaima, I know you have been in Gaza recently yourself. We've had this confirmation now in Gaza City that there is famine. What have you seen? What have your team seen for yourselves?
Well, it just weighs heavy to sit here today and tell you that this announcement is not a surprise. When I was in Gaza and aid was abruptly cut off, it was during Ramadan, it was on the 2nd of March. And I remember how the day before, my colleagues, there was such a buzz in the office that lettuce was finally in the market, and there was a discussion on what salads they were going to be making that day to break their fast. And the next day, there was this announcement that aid was going to be cut off. And I just remember the panic in people. People were panic buying. They were going to the markets, buying whatever they could find and whatever they could afford. And within days, any sort of protein, meat was not available. Within weeks, there was no fresh fruit and no fresh vegetables. And within a month, there was no flour. And if there was flour available, it was 3 times the usual price. And I was already speaking to families during the ceasefire then. There was a pause in hostilities on how it was like during the war, and many of them, particularly those that lived in the north, didn't have any access to food. So they were taking desperate and dehumanising measures to feed their children. One mother was telling me how she would use animal feed and make some sort of dough with that to feed her 4 small children. People were eating grass, they were eating leaves. And the situation has only gotten worse since then. We have children telling us that they wish they would die so that they could go to heaven and eat food.
Shaman, that's very difficult to listen to. You have actually witnessed this for yourselves, because Israel is saying that there is no famine in Gaza. They're saying this is false information based on Hamas's false information. When you talk about children having to eat grass or animal feed, you have actually witnessed that yourself. You have, just tell me what age these children were, where you've seen it.
So when I was in Gaza, I met a lot of malnourished children, and I was in Gaza during the pause in hostilities. So I was meeting a lot of the children in our healthcare clinics who were receiving treatment for malnutrition. Their mothers were telling me how they used to beg for food to try and feed their children. A lot of the mothers that had just given birth, they couldn't breastfeed because they were malnourished themselves. But they were getting the treatment that they needed because aid at the time was coming in, so we were able to give them the treatment that they needed to recover. And just as they were recovering, aid was cut off. And families were they just didn't know what to do. Like only yesterday, I spoke to a colleague and I said to him that I was going to be on the BBC today. What would you like me to tell the BBC? And he said, Shema, I just want people to know that I am a human being. I do not want to lose my children. I fear every day that my children would die from the bombs, but I fear now that they would starve to death.
These are your own colleagues?
These are my own colleagues that I worked with.
Okay, Shema Al-Abidi, thank you very much.
Yes, these Western media outlets would present Israeli lies as facts without any verification. They would read out denial on behalf of Israeli terrorists, even without any prompt. But Palestinians, the victims of this genocide, must be hounded and dehumanized at every single opportunity. The longer the Gaza genocide continues, the more the complicity of the Western media will receive global spotlight. As I said in a number of my videos in the last 23 months, every single major Western media outlet, with an exception of a couple, has the blood of Palestinians on their hands. While Israeli terrorists have been busy murdering innocent civilians in Gaza, dropping bombs on hospitals, schools, mosques, churches and libraries with the help of corrupt Western politicians, Western media outlets have diligently played their part in hiding Israeli crimes. They have done so by not reporting the truth, present Israeli lies as facts, and more crucially, dehumanizing the victims of this genocide by mocking their suffering. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.